So in the last video, we concluded at a point where Brutus tells Cassius that honor is greater for me. I can even uh, lay down my life for honor. So Cassius knows very well that for Brutus, honor is something that comes right on top. So next, Cassius says, I know that virtue to be in you, Brutus, as well as I do know your outward favor. He says, of course, I do know that, Brutus, that you do value honor deeply. Well, honor is the subject of my story. I cannot tell what you and other men think of this life, but for my single self, I had as life not be as lived to be in awe of such a thing as I myself. So he says that, he directly does not attack Caesar at all, if you see. He leads the conversation towards honor because he knows that that's what Brutus loves. Brutus's entire cornerstone of decision making lies on, how much honor, what is his reputation, his image, all that matters to him. So he says that honor is the subject of my story. I am here to talk about honor. And he says that, see, I can't talk about you and I can't talk of other people, but as far as I am concerned, that I don't want to live like this in constant fear of Caesar's tyranny. What if he becomes too powerful, and what if he tries to put us all under his thumb and rule? I can't live in this fear. I was born free as Caesar, so were you. We both have fed as well, and we both can endure the winter's cold as well as he. So he then now starts slowly manipulating and starts doing a comparison and says, what is so different? You and I were born as free as Caesar. We were born, with equal freedom, with equal liberty. As much as Caesar had, you and I had. We have come up with good backgrounds. We have been, good upbringing. We have both fed as well. And just like Caesar can stand a winter's cold, you and I also have the strength to do it. So if everything is same, why? Why do we have to consider Caesar up in that place? Why does he have so much power, and why don't we have it? And then he now talks upon a story. He says, once upon a raw and gusty day, the troubled tide was chafing with her shore, Caesar said to me, darest thou, Cassius, now leap in with me into this angry flood and swim to yonder point? He says, do you know, once when the Tiber River was raging, there was, it was a stormy evening and the Tiber was raging, the waters were raging. Caesar comes to me and says that, Cassius, will you jump with me into this river and swim to that point there? Upon the word, accorded as I was, I plunged in and bade him to follow. So he says, as soon as he said that, even though I was fully clothed, I didn't care. I just jumped and I started swimming. So indeed he did, and so did Caesar. The torrent roared, and we did buffet it with lusty sinews, throwing it aside and stemming it with hearts of controversy. So he says, of course, the river was also ferocious and raging, but we also gave it a tough competition and we swam against the tides. But ere we could arrive at the point proposed, Caesar cried, help me, Cassius, or I sink. As Inez, our great ancestor, did from the flames of Troy upon his shoulder the old Anchises bear, so from the waves of Tiber did I, the tired Caesar. So he says that before we could even reach the point, Caesar started drowning and he started crying for help. And I, like our ancestor Aeneas, who from the flames of Troy, he was a Trojan, and from the flames of Troy he saved his father Anchises, the same way I brought in Caesar and I prevented him from drowning, and I saved him and got him to the shores. And this man is now become a god, and Cassius a wretched creature, and must bend his body if Caesar carelessly but not on him. This guy who doesn't even have the capacity to swim from one point to the other is now become so powerful that he walks as if the entire Rome belongs to him, and Cassius has now become, or I have rather become, a wretched creature, and if he just even glances a look upon me, I should take that as a big favor. He had a fever when he was in Spain, and when the fit was on him, I did mark how he did shake. So first story he talks about his, he didn't have the capacity to, he didn't have the strength to even swim to a yonder point. Now he says the second story. He says, when we were in Spain and he had a fit, he had an epileptic attack, and I saw how he shaked. This god did shake. So this man who tries to portray himself as a ruler of Rome and the authority of Rome, this man was shaking. His covered lips did from their color fly. His lips turned pale. And that same eye, whose bend doth all the world, did lose his luster. And with those same eyes, now he keeps looking around, and everybody starts shouting in awe, make him their hero, the Caesar, whose eyes are now showing the glimpse of power and arrogance. This eyes had totally lost his luster. I did hear him groan, and that tongue of his that bade the Romans mark him and write his speeches in their books. Alas, it cried, give some drink, Titinius, as a sick girl. So he says the same tongue with which he speaks now, and he's passing around orders and decrees, and people are noting it down. He's become this all-powerful Roman now. The same man, he was trembling and asking for water to his friend Titinius, like a sick girl. Ye gods, it doth amaze me a man of such feeble temper should so get the start of the majestic world and bear the palm alone. And he says, it really makes me wonder that a man whose constitution is so weak, he couldn't swim, he had an epileptic attack, this man could, get an advantage over all of us, and he's kind of he treats himself to be the ruler of Rome. This is something that really amazes me, Brutus. This is the conversation. This is Cassius is a very, very smooth talker, and I've said this time and again, and I think Cassius has some of the best lines of the play. His lines are really powerful, and he never tells Brutus a single time, join me. Let's join me into this scheme. He never tells, but he leads him, and the conclusion becomes very evident. So if you want to just understand the speech in a little more depth, see, Cassius doesn't start by attacking Caesar. That will be very obvious. Instead, he starts by boosting Brutus's ego. He tells him that I know that virtue to be in you, Brutus, as well as I do know your outward favor. So he says, I know that you have a lot of honor, you value honor, and I know that. So this is a psychological genius, right? He is making Brutus feel seen, important, worthy of something greater. He's not just a friend, right? He's a trusted judge of Brutus's character. He has studied Brutus very, very closely. And this flattery is just the beginning. Next, he plays his trump card. He knows that Brutus cares about his reputation. So he frames that entire conversation around honor. Honor is the subject of my story. He starts with that, and he knows that will lock Brutus in. Then he starts attacking Caesar and making him seem very weak. He talks about how he couldn't swim against the tides of Tiber, how he got the epileptic attack when he was in Spain. So he mocks at the idea that Caesar is a godlike figure. He behaves like a godlike figure, when in reality he shivered and groaned in bed like any ordinary man. So now the question lingers in Brutus's mind. So he has very carefully planted that seed of doubt in Brutus's mind. So now Brutus starts thinking, is Caesar really the man who should rule Rome? So Cassius has attacked Caesar's image, but he also wants Brutus to question his own status.